April 30th, 1789. George Washington takes the oath of office as the first president of the United States. It's a moment that seems inevitable in hindsight, but what if it never happened? What if the man who refused a crown had also refused a presidency? Today, we re-dive into one of history's most consequential what-ifs, a world where George Washington never became president. Section 1. The Road Not Taken. To understand the magnitude of this alternate history, we need to grasp just how critical Washington was to America's founding. He was not just a military hero who led the Continental Army to victory against the world's greatest empire. He was the glue that held 13 fractious colonies together during their most vulnerable years. But here's the thing, Washington almost didn't become president. Multiple times. After the Revolutionary War, he desperately wanted to retire to Mount Vernon. He'd already performed one miracle by voluntarily relinquishing military power, something that stunned European observers accustomed to victorious generals seizing control. So let's imagine a plausible scenario. December 1783, exhausted from 8 years of war and suffering from recurring illnesses, decides his body can take no more. Instead of merely resigning his commission, he announces his complete retirement from public life, citing health concerns. Or perhaps more dramatically, what if Washington had fallen to one of the many close calls during the war? Without Washington available or willing, the Constitutional Convention of 1787 faces its first crisis before it even begins. Who could possibly fill this void? Section 2. Immediate chaos. The immediate impact would be catastrophic. The Constitutional Convention itself might never happen, or if it does, it lacks the gravitas Washington's presence provided. Remember, many delegates only attended because Washington would be there. Without him, several states might not even send representatives. But, let's say the convention proceeds. Who becomes the first president? John Adams. He's respected but seen as vain and irritable. Thomas Jefferson? He's in France. Benjamin Franklin? He's 81 and in failing health. Alexander Hamilton? He's brilliant but only 32 and foreign-born. Most likely, the electors deadlock. No candidate commands universal respect. The House of Representatives must decide, but they're split along regional lines. New England supports Adams. Virginia pushes for a native son, maybe Edmund Randolph or Patrick Henry. New York advances Governor George Clinton. After weeks of deadlock, a compromise candidate emerges, perhaps John Hancock or John Jay. Whoever wins starts with a poisoned chalice seen as a sectional candidate, not a national unifier. Section 3. A fragile union. Without Washington's unifying presence, the fragile bonds holding the states together begin to fray immediately. Remember, in 1789, people identified more with their states than with the nation. They were Virginians or New Yorkers first, Americans second. Washington was the exceptio truly national figure. Our compromise president lacks the moral authority to establish crucial precedents. When Congress passes controversial legislation, states simply ignore it. Why should Massachusetts listen to President Hancock from rival New York? European powers smell blood in the water. Britain still occupies forts in the Northwest Territory, and without Washington's firm diplomacy, they become more aggressive. They start making separate deals with individual states. Spain, controlling the Mississippi River, plays states against each other for navigation rights. When the French Revolution explodes in 1789, America faces its first foreign policy crisis. Without Washington's steady hand enforcing neutrality, different regions take sides. New England leans toward Britain. The South supports France. The federal government cannot enforce a unified foreign policy. By 1791, states begin forming regional confederations. New England creates a commercial alliance. The South forms an agricultural compact. The Middle states desperately try to maintain the Union. Section 4. Economic turmoil. The economic consequences are devastating. Alexander Hamilton's financial plan, the assumption of state debts, the creation of a national bank, the establishment of public credit depended entirely on Washington's support. Without the general's backing, Hamilton is just a 34-year-old upstart with radical ideas. States refuse to let the federal government assume their debts. The national credit remains in ruins. Each state issues its own currency, leading to chaos in interstate commerce. Without a strong federal government to negotiate, America gets terrible trade deals. States retaliate with their own tariffs but against each other. New York taxes, New Jersey goods. Pennsylvania retaliates against both. It's economic warfare between supposed allies. The Panic of 1792 hits harder and lasts longer. Without federal coordination, bank failures cascade across state lines. Skilled workers emigrate back to Europe. The Western territories begin looking elsewhere for protection and trade. Spain offers Kentucky and Tennessee access to the Mississippi in exchange for leaving the Union. Britain courts Vermont and the Northwest Territory. Without a strong federal response possible without Washington's leadership, America begins to dissolve. Section 5. Social upheaval. Into this vacuum step dangerous men. Without Washington's example of selfless service, ambitious demagogues rise in each region. In New England, perhaps a maritime merchant prince establishes quasi-dictatorial control. In the South, a plantation aristocrat builds a personal army. The question of slavery explodes without Washington's moderating influence. While Washington was himself a slaveholder, his national stature and gradual evolution on the issue provided a pathway for eventual abolition. Without him, positions harden immediately. Northern states become more aggressively anti-slavery not from moral conviction, but economic necessity. Southern states become more militantly pro-slavery. The gradual emancipation laws passed in some northern states are repealed. Perhaps most tragically, American civic virtue dies in infancy. Washington's model of reluctant service never takes root. Politics becomes purely transactional. Corruption, the idea of public service becomes laughable. Local rebellions become common and successful. Without federal authority backed by Washington's prestige, states cannot maintain order. The American experiment in Republican government is deemed a failure. Section 6. A divergent future by 1800. The United States exists only on paper. North America has fractured into multiple nations. The Republic of New England operates as a maritime trading confederation, essentially a British client state. The Chesapeake Confederation maintains a plantation aristocracy. The Deep South forms the Carolina Republic, an explicitly slave-based nation. The Western Territories fare even worse. Kentucky and Tennessee become Spanish. The Northwest Territory returns to British control. France, emboldened by American weakness, never sells Louisiana, maintaining a massive North American empire. The global impact is profound. The French Revolution, without the American example of successful republicanism, fails more quickly. European monarchs crack down harder on democratic movements. The age of revolution never truly begins. By 1850, European empires are stronger and more entrenched. Democratic ideals remain the province of dreamers and radicals. The concept of individual rights develops differently, if at all. Fast forward to today. Instead of the United States, North America contains 6 or 7 different nations. Without American intervention, the world wars unfold differently. Fascism or communism dominates the 20th century without American opposition. Conclusion. Our present reality, redefined this alternate history, reveals a sobering truth. George Washington was just important to American history. He was essential. His decision to serve as president, to establish precedents of peaceful transfer of power, of civilian control over the military, of national over sectional interests, created the foundation for everything that followed. Without Washington, there might be no American democracy to inspire others, no Constitution to serve as a model, no Bill of Rights to enshrine individual freedoms. The very concepts we take for granted, that governments derive their power from the consent of the governed, that leaders should serve limited terms, that the military must submit to civilian authority, might never have taken root. So the next time you see the Washington Monument, remember, it commemorates not just a man, but a choice to serve when he wanted to retire, a choice to relinquish power when he could have kept it, a choice that literally changed the course of human history. George Washington, the indispensable man. Without him, the world we know simply wouldn't exist.